Hello, friends. So, I wanted to talk very, very briefly about a shadow integration thing that I stumbled on in the last couple weeks. Um, so, I know in the last video I posted there was only a rambling kind of explanation of like shadow work 101. So, again, just to try to clarify it a little bit, um, you know, all of us have light and dark in us. The dark tends to be the stuff that we repress or don't want to acknowledge in ourselves, and that society tells us we should be repressing. Anything that you would have shame around. And to free up parts of your psyche for channeling into other things, bigger and better things, mainly your creativity, but just your overall personal power. You're freeing up when you work on those things, when you acknowledge those things and embrace them. So there's a particular practice I've been doing called existential kink, and I'll throw the link to the book in the description, but it's a method created by Carolyn Elliott, and I've followed her for a couple years, and she calls herself a witch on the internet, which sums it up pretty well, I guess. But it's a shadow integration technique where you try to get in touch with those parts of yourselves in a very bodily, sensational way through meditation. So I've been doing that for about, I guess, a little over a month now. And I've done it before, but I didn't do it consistently. So I've been doing it consistently for about a month. And I would say probably 2 weeks ago, in doing it, I've made some pretty interesting breakthroughs with this, and one of the things that has happened is very, very spontaneously, very spontaneously during meditation, as I tried to kind of summon up these parts of me that were hiding, for lack of a better word, spontaneously, my mind conjured up an image in front of me, like a figure almost, that I could dialogue with. And that's something that I have often seen in other shadow integration techniques, and working with other kind of like broad concepts, like when people work on their financial issues in meditation, to conjure up like the spirit of money or the spirit of wealth. You're just kind of letting your mind bring up something that you can dialogue with, because it's a little more, it's a little easier to conceptualize that way. So anyway, so my mind brought up a figure, and when I've tried to do this before, it's always really, really abstract, and I'm like, everyone's prone to that. Oh, I just made that up, or oh, this, or whatever. But my mind made up, it was like a distinctly feminine shadow silhouette in front of me, and it actually reminded me a lot of the Dementors in Harry Potter, except that she was 100% non-threatening, and not creepy or anything like that. I'm sorry, this thing's bopping around because I'm balancing on my knee. But so that's what my mind conjured up, and it was just this thing to, like I said, dialogue with. And so the first part of the meditation, you're kind of just trying to find that part of you. And I'm like, okay, so I guess I kind of found it. And then the second part of the meditation, you're supposed to do other things that um, basically like extend love and gratitude and acceptance toward this part of yourself. And when I went to do that, it felt like this thing was like this close to my face. And I'm not saying it was like a ghost or an entity or something like that. But it's just that feeling in your body. I mean, this is a projection from your mind, but that's how it felt. Like it was right in front of my face, and it felt very, very close and like very intimate, even. And which sounds crazy to people, but that's the thing, is when you're integrating your shadow, it's a part of you you've ignored for so long, and to integrate it properly, you need to get to know it, and that's intimacy. So it felt very intimate, and just doing that for a couple days was pretty cool. And I'm like, okay, this is really, really interesting. And then on maybe like the third or fourth day that I did that, something just popped into my head when I was doing that part, and it dawned on me like, oh, I've never seen her breathe me in like you see the Dementors do on Harry Potter. And it was like, all of a sudden, oh my God, I need to breathe her in. You know? And of course, what other way, what would make more sense than that? If this is your shadow, if this is a part of you that you're supposed to unify with, of course you would have to breathe it in. And so kind of like visualizing that and then doing it, whoa, like next level insanity, but in a good way. So the thing is that, you know, like the issues that you're working on, again, going by this technique, feel a certain way in your body, and then when you kind of hit this catalyst, they're going to feel a different way in your body. And so I went from here to like up here in that moment where I realized that's what I had to do. And it was like a full body, very sensational thing. And these, like, you don't have to understand why these things are the way that they are, but once you have these experiences, they can kind of help unearth some of the reasons that we might lock ourselves into self-sabotaging behavior and stuff like that. And which was the one I was working on? Crap. I think the one I was working on when I did that was hang-ups around like not having a relationship or something like that, or not having like that loving connection with someone. And so in like kind of chipping off the paint here, because it's layers, it's not really a one and done thing, but in chipping off the layers here, all of a sudden it boinked into my mind, like, you like having your freedom a lot more than you like being in a relationship with someone. And the profound pang of truth in that was mind-blowing. And it's not something that most of us would probably admit to. I mean, well, okay, far be it for me to speak for everybody, but I guess that's one of those kind of just quirky things. Like, some people would kind of raise an eyebrow at that, but like, yeah, there is a profound level within me that would prefer remaining completely and totally free, alone, never having to answer to anybody ever, that likes that I live by myself and can do pretty much whatever the fuck I want whenever I want, and don't have to share a space with someone. And yeah, So, and I know, again, I can't speak for everyone because I'm sure there are plenty of single women out there who are very aware that that's why they like being single. But I guess I just wasn't one of them. So it was very surprising to me. Um, so, so I've been hanging out with that for, you know, whatever, a week and a half, 2 weeks now. And just, I know I talked in the last video about synchronicity as well. And something really funny happened. Probably like end of last week. Like, I listen to my playlist on YouTube when I'm working here now all day. And when the playlist runs out, it just starts auto-populating stuff. And it auto-populated Freedom by George Michael. And I mean, I like the song, but I just kind of occurred to me, like, oh, this doesn't seem like anything I've been listening to, you know. I didn't even think about it. And then on my way home from somewhere over the weekend, I was listening to it again, because I'll listen to like a YouTube playlist in the car. And it auto-populated onto that right after another song that I'd kind of had stuck in my head. And all of a sudden, it dawned on me, like, oh, wait a minute. This is actually really interesting that it just kind of came up randomly, and right after a song that is actually about being with someone or wanting to be with someone. And I was like, oh, touche, Shadow. I see what you did there, you know. And then Monday night, I did this webinar thing, and I was being asked a bunch of questions by people, and someone asked me, do you ever walk around during the day with like a theme song in your head? And I was like, oh my God, absolutely. But it changes a lot. And I said, so I guess the most recent one is probably Freedom by George Michael. And I didn't even really know why I said it. It's just that it was stuck in my head since it had popped up the few days before. And once I said it and I got off the webinar, I was like, oh my gosh, like, for real, like, this is my Shadow getting to have her time in the sun, you know? And so it's just been, this song has been on a fucking loop for me for days now, and I keep my window and my balcony door open. I'm sure people are fucking sick of it, to be honest. And like, I've been going out on my balcony at night, like with headphones, and I'll have a cigarette and I'll like dance like a maniac. So I'm sure people are probably sick of that too, but who cares? but yeah, so it's just very interesting how you can see with some immediacy how freeing up and discovering these parts of you starts to manifest outside of you as well. Even in small ways like that. And I mean, there's other ways, honestly, that I've seen it happen. I won't get into those because those are probably a little, not abstract, but not as common. But there's other ways I've seen it come up. That's just probably one of the broader ways people can relate to it, and I've found really interesting. So yeah, that's my story for this week. I have a sneaking suspicion I'll be talking more about meditations soon and intuition, just because as soon as this whole thing with this way that my mind kind of drummed up something to converse with as my shadow that looks like a Dementor, the meditations that I've been doing have been so different and so wild in ways that they've never been in all the years I've done meditation. And also go to prove how much of a sense of humor the universe has, or, you know, again, whatever you subscribe to. So I think I'm going to be sharing some of that. One of them involves Samuel L. Jackson. And yeah, I'll leave it at that for now. So thanks for hearing my ramble again, and hopefully I'll see you soon.